Good morning. Grab your cup. When we talk about personal growth or healing from and growing into a different place after painful things have happened, you've been through a divorce, there's been loss, you've just had really hard, big challenges in your life. Maybe you had a difficult childhood. When we talk about healing from that and growing into what you'd love to have happen, how you want your life to be, we often talk about the spiritual aspect of that, or I talk about the spiritual aspect of that, because in my own experience and then in my training as a whole life coach and a lot of other places that I've studied, that spiritual component is very important. But there's also the possibility of having a spiritual bypass. And I want to talk a little bit about what that is, because we don't want to do that either. The spirituality is so important. Spirituality is a connection to yourself, and it is really going inward and upward to a greater source. So connecting and acknowledging that source in your life. And people do that with prayer, people do that with going to church, people do that by being out in nature, people use music, people might meditate or even have yoga be a spiritual practice. So there are a lot of ways that people do that. But if we have a spiritual bypass, that actually stops us from the personal growth that we're looking for. So spiritual bypass means that instead of acknowledging the experiences that I've had and digesting and metabolizing what was painful about it, the emotions that came with that, I actually avoid that and I go right to the spiritual practices. It might look like always relying on saying to yourself or saying out loud, it's divine will, it's God's will. It might look like staying very detached rather than being compassionate and having empathy for other people. You only really can develop empathy and compassion when you have practiced feeling your own emotions. If you're not used to doing that, it's very difficult to be connected to other people's emotions. So it can develop a detachment in the name of spirituality, in the name of this is divine will, or I'm just going to give it up to divine will. But I'm not actually experiencing what is the human part of me here. I'm not experiencing the emotions. So why is that a big deal? Because in the area of personal growth, if you're really looking to overcome what's been difficult so that you can have life go the way you want it to go, you have to be able to metabolize and experience those things in a way that clears out that emotion from your body. It actually acknowledges the emotion and the energy that those experiences created. Does that make sense? So spiritual bypassing is something to be cautionary of. It's something to really look, am I using spirituality? Am I using divinity? Am I using practices to actually avoid what there is inside my body and in my emotions? Because that will have you come less detached to yourself rather than more. And it will have you become less detached to other people. And if you're looking for connection, like let's say it was a divorce or a loss, and now you want to have another connection, you won't be able to do that if you haven't allowed yourself to feel and to use those emotions and that energy to actually deepen. Because our human experience is not only about what's good and feels good. Our human experience is also about what's painful and what hurts and what is uncomfortable to look at and to experience. That's where the growth happens. If we don't do that, we don't grow. And the spirituality is really a facade. So in the work that I do with people, we do a lot of both of those things. What's going on in our body? What do we need to metabolize? How do we need to move that out? And how do we develop a deeper connection to ourselves? If you're interested in that, put talk in the comments and I'll make sure that you get a link so we can have a free conversation about what you'd like to heal from and grow into in your life. Have a good day.